Welcome to For Mannerless Women, a brand new show here at Legally Clueless that's seeking to nurture a new generation of shame-free women who are ready to meet their best selves. My name is Adelle and I'm your host, and starting us off is someone who's going to help you get more empowered when it comes to your health as a woman. Her name is Dr. Sally. I am so excited to have you here because I know what you've done for me in terms of just my health, and I tell our community about it all the time. But also, since the first time we've had you on our shows here at Legally Clueless, so many people from the community have come to see you, Dr. Sally.
Yes, they have.
And you've helped so many other women. So excited to hear new things and learn things from you today. So the first time I met you was 2023.
Yes.
September, October. I had not slept for 3 days. I had listened to all the noises white noise. You Google these things and it's listen to white noise, count this. Melatonin, I had nothing. Nothing was working, and my mind was in such a dark place, and it felt like if there were pipes in my body, one had burst. I'm like, something, the wiring, something's off. Yeah. And my very good friend, Dr. Njoki Ngumi, I still remember her words. He was like, outsource health, please. Go see my doctor, Dr. Sally. So I came to see you at your clinic, and I realized that something that's important for you is you base your practice on wellness, right? So take me through why I had to fill out a form telling you how much sleep I was getting and very qualitative things about where my life was, even while doing the triage stuff. Yeah.
Okay. You're a person. You're a human being, and therefore looking at any symptom that you bring to me from a lens that's very one-dimensional or approaching it in a silo kind of thinking of way will not help. You see, there's definitely a connection between mental health and physical health. And there's things that you might be doing or not doing that could affect your mental health. But similarly, your mental state will affect some of the findings that we'll have in your physical health. So that's why it's important to figure out this person in front of me, who are they and what are they about? We talk about risk factors when we're thinking about, say, chronic conditions. If I'm worried that over time, you not sleeping will push you into a pre-diabetes and so on and so forth. So risk factors are the things which, if present or if absent, would push you faster, easier into some of these conditions. So that's why you found our form was so detailed, because yes, we'll get to what has brought you here, which is you not sleeping for 3 days. But first I have to understand, who is this person? Currently, is she taking any medications? Because those might be contributing to her lack of sleep. Is she on any supplements, for example? Does she have any other medical condition that as I'm treating her sleep issue, I need to concurrently manage? What's her family history like? You see, maybe there's some genetic predispositions which are now going to pop up because you're not sleeping. So it's not enough for me to say, okay, here, take this tablet, go and sleep. And yet maybe it could be a symptom of something potentially worse that's coming on, you see. I need to know, what's your reproductive health like? It could be a hormonal imbalance that's pushing you into not sleeping. So if I give you a sleeping medication, have I sorted out the problem? No. I've only helped you sleep for as long as you're on whatever I've put you on. So that's why we take our time to really dig into the various elements of your life. Again, for example, for you as Adele. And you're now making movies. I saw that, by the way. Maybe you're traveling, maybe you've been doing some late night shows, and then you've disrupted your natural biological clock by virtue of your occupation. Again, what impact does that have on your sleep? Is your job a risk factor for you getting ill? So we have to break you
and
apart.
see the human,
and
right?
see the human. Because symptoms are symptoms,
Yeah.
but I need to know the why, I need to know the when, I need to know the what, so that whatever I'm sorting out is not just for the here and now.
And then you're back in 2
And then,
weeks.
in 2 weeks, it's like, that was great. I slept for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm back. I'm not sleeping
Yeah.
again. Yeah.
So what I realized from my first consultation with you is it felt like therapy. I feel sorry for anyone who had an appointment after me. Because my first consultation, and I call it a session actually, because it was deep. It was not consulting. It took quite a bit, and I just enjoyed the grace. I enjoyed the patience, but more than anything, which is a complaint many women have, I enjoyed being heard, right?
Yeah.
Because there's many times you go to a doctor and you just feel like they're like, pain where? Okay, go. Right?
Yeah.
So one thing I got to understand during our first session is burnout and stress, right? And those were not things I thought about, but I didn't also realize how much of a factor they play, especially in women's lives, right?
Yeah.
So do you see a lot of women coming to your clinic battling burnout or with symptoms of burnout and symptoms of stress?
Yes.
Like
Not
too much.
emphatically.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Actually, most of our patients, unfortunately, are suffering from some form of stress, some form of burnout.
Okay.
And it's because there's a lot happening. In the era that we're in, first of all, we are glorifying hard work. Remember the conversation
hustle
we
culture.
Yes.
Do you remember that hashtag team no sleep? Like always grinding. It's just like, imagine.
No. And when you look at it, has our quality of life improved?
No.
Absolutely not. It has not. So you find a lot of people have to work harder, work longer hours, potentially work multiple jobs. This year alone, we've had so many of our regular patients come into the clinic and tell us, I had to close down my business, or I'm being laid off. I'm currently negotiating my severance. We have people who are working in the NGO space who are telling us, because of, I was going to say global decisions, but yes.
One person's decisions.
Yes.
Yeah.
Last week you had work. Today you don't.
And you couldn't even see it coming.
You couldn't see it coming.
Yeah.
And maybe, yes, you were fine financially. Maybe you were saving. Maybe you had investments. Maybe you didn't. But even if you do, it's that finality that's pushing you into a state of stress. So the common complaints we get, and yes, especially from women, I'm not sleeping. I have excessive fatigue. So I'm tired all the time. I'm going to bed tired. I'm waking up tired. I'm living my life tired. I'm running my business. I'm in my work tired. I'm running a family tired. Theme tired. Yeah. You find also we then see a lot of the physical changes that stress would bring about. So I'm struggling with eating. My appetite's gone out the window, or I'm gaining so much weight and truly I've not changed my diet per se. In fact, I'm wondering why, because I'm not eating as much as I was before. So we're seeing a lot of that in our day-to-day practice. And I think that's why it felt like a session, as you said, for you, because going back to what I said earlier, I had to figure out, is the lack of sleep from an illness, an organic illness, or is it from a mental state that's, been dysregulated?
We're going to come back to burnout and stress, but I want to touch on something you said, because I just remembered in our session. I'm complaining about no sleep, and I remember you were taking my family history.
Yes.
And because my mom passed away from breast cancer, that's always been top of my mind, right? And I'm like, my mom has breast cancer and my dad passed away. And then I still remember you're holding your pen and you're like, oh, okay, what did your dad die of? And I said, oh, he was shot by thugs. And you put your pen down and you said, do you realize how much this is? Like, this is a lot.
Yeah.
And that was my first time acknowledging that even mentally there's like a fatigue, like you're carrying a lot of unprocessed feelings.
Yes.
That could be manifesting, could be manifesting physically, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So when we go to like, because sleep we're going to get to, because I'm at 9 hours. Please clap for me, please.
You're a model patient. It means you listen to what I
did.
taught you. Well done.
But before we get to sleep,
Yep.
let's talk definitions.
Okay.
Because stress.
Can I define stress, please?
Yes.
Because it's also a term that's become very commonplace. Even kids nowadays say, oh, I'm so stressed.
Yeah.
But do we really know what stress means? So stress is just any time your body, your mind, you feel overwhelmed by whatever the demands are.
Okay.
And you see, that could be, for example, a health stress. That could be lack of sleep, which is a physiological stress. It could be a financial stress. It could be a social stress. Your partner has just broken up with you, or you're wondering where your relationship is heading. It could be grief, for example, what you were dealing with at that time that's been unprocessed. And you see, grief is not linear.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that if it happened 10 years ago, that
it's
now
done.
you should be fine like that. No, you'll still find ways to bring it about, right?
Yeah.
But the thing is, regardless of the source of stress, our bodies typically respond in the same way.
Okay.
And that's going into the fight or flight response.
Okay.
And it's all about survival. Because you see, if you're being attacked from whatever quarter, you have to survive, right?
Even if it's emotional or if it's like
doesn't matter.
The same
fight or flight.
Okay.
Yeah. So if your stress is a toxic boss, you could manifest the same way as if you've just lost your home. Yeah, or one of your loved ones is fighting a terrible illness. Your body will say, we have to survive.
Yeah. And what does fight look like for the body, and what does flight look like for the body? Yeah.
Okay. So you'll find it's a process that's controlled by a number of hormones.
Yeah.
So mainly cortisol, mainly adrenaline, and another one we call noradrenaline.
Okay.
So it's your system kicking into, one, we have to figure out how to protect ourselves. So you'll find your brain telling your gut, instructing your gut, look, we need to get a lot of extra energy to be able to figure out whatever this is that is attacking us and how to handle it. Yeah. Do we want to flee by shutting down and hiding in our bed all the time?
That was me. Presence, yes.
We see you in the room.
Yeah.
Or is it that, we have to tackle it head on? But you see, regardless, this is an extraordinary circumstance, or at least it's supposed to be. So the problem we're seeing now is that with all of us facing chronic stress on a day-to-day, as opposed to just one big, acute, intense stress, is then we're activating our response every day, little by little. Yeah. So then your gut will be told, so get me energy. Where does your energy come from? It comes from your food, right? So everything in your digestive system will be geared to making sure we can get our glucose quickly once we've digested the food. So that's why you'll find people getting disruptions in the acid balance and starting to get reflux, heartburn, bloating, bowel movements, because there's a gut in action trying to figure out where can we get our energy and where can we get it quick.
Because it's an emergency.
Because it's an emergency. We are fighting for survival, right? And that's how cravings come in. So a lot of the women we see will come and say, I'm craving, and it's always sugar in your house.
Yeah.
You'll never crave spinach.
Yeah.
Because you see, by the time we're able to get enough glucose for you to survive from spinach, won't you have died from the thing that is attacking you?
And we're in a crisis, so it's quick things.
Crisis, quick, right? So, but you find because of the disruption of the acid balance, and therefore sometimes we have a bit more gas in that tummy, and it's lying to the brain that, look, we're full, we don't need to eat. Some people then lose appetite.
I felt I lost, it was so strange. This makes so much sense.
Yes, but other people will eat everything because your brain's saying, I need more, I need more, I need more energy, right? Yeah. We also see things like higher blood pressure. So people who are not even predisposed to high blood pressure and hypertension start getting higher and higher pressures. That's why if, say, we take your pressure when you're angry or anxious, because your body still went into the fight or flight, we might find a higher reading than usual. But you see, if we allow you to continue in whatever this chronic stress state is, then your body will normalize that high
That's
pressure.
the normal, because we've been at it for
a while. We know how to do this. Now, say in the background, there's a genetic predisposition towards the high blood pressure. Then can you see how 1 + 1, and suddenly it's been years, and now we're telling you, oh, okay, Adele, now you're hypertensive, or now you're pre-hypertensive.
And we can't fully understand it. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, so it's such a chain. And you see, all this arose from whatever that was stressing you, whether it was emotional, mental, physical, financial, all the above, doesn't matter, right?
This is so interesting because I think we reduce the impact emotional stresses have.
Yes.
And I remember working in a toxic workplace, and I kept on saying, why am I'm reacting as though someone is punching me every day, but like, but your body is just like, you're throwing up, you're sickly, and they can't find any symptoms, you know what I mean? Yes. And so it's quite interesting. I also feel like with stress culturally, we are socialized to think stress
equals productivity.
Yeah. Think about when we were kids. Like if in a typical African home, your parents find you relaxing after school.
No, stand up, go.
I have to see you.
How come you slept for 2?
And then school has to be hard. Work has to be hard.
If it's easy.
Life has to be hard, And so I think we get confused then because we normalize stress as being a normal part, but it could be unhealthy. Is there any sort of healthy stress?
Yes, actually, we call it, what we aim for is something called eustress, where there's not too much negative stress and there's a bit of positive stress. Good stress looks like the thing that will motivate you to achieve results. So say, for example, there's a particular task you're working on and there's a deadline. That extra oomph that will push you to accomplish that. Or for example, with athletes, when we're saying, you had this record, try and break this record, so you're training a bit harder, but to get that. You see, that's a good stress because it's coming in with a lot of motivation. It's coming in with a completion of a task. There's an end to it.
It's not just like...
But the one we're all facing is the negative
It's the negative stress.
It's the negative stress. And that's why we have to be very careful when we're saying what is stress, because so many of our patients come in and say, well, I actually didn't know I was stressed, because as you're saying, we've normalized this high pressure, high octane life through.
It has to be hard. It has
to be hard. And there's some patients who, by the time we finish going through the consultation, and I think you were one of them, you're like, I didn't know things were this bad.
Do you remember what I told you when you gave me my diagnosis? And you said, what we're dealing with here is low functioning depression. And the first thing I told you is, so am I dying?
Because you see,
because I was like, hey,
you've been socialized, low functioning. How now? And you knew how hard you'd been working, all the stuff that you've been doing, right? But you see, we were looking at function from a physiological perspective, where if you're not sleeping, you're not eating, you don't have energy, you can't move, you're not a functional human being.
Exactly. And so let's talk burnout before we get to sleep, because I think it's also hard to, in my experience, it's been hard to spot it until it demands to be felt.
Yes. Burnout is really essentially an extension of chronic stress.
Okay.
So to the point where again, you feel either you are emotionally exhausted. So because this is part of occupational health, and now we're looking at behavioral psychology, you'll find that, yes, with burnout, we're saying you've reached a point where you feel there's too much. You're in a constant state of overwhelm. What you are describing, for example, with a toxic workplace, where on Sunday night, you're already thinking...
And not even night, 1 p.m. when we have crossed past 12 noon.
You're like,
I'm like,
the weekend is over and tomorrow I'm back at that place.
Yeah.
But it's a state where you're feeling so overwhelmed, there's too much, but you're also feeling very ineffective.
Yeah.
So you're trying to do more to bridge this gap where I'm ineffective, but there's still so much to do. But you just can't seem to meet with that. Yeah. So over time, it reaches a point where it's too much.
Yeah.
We look at depersonalization, where to the point now you don't care anymore. One of my colleagues always says it reaches a point where maybe your boss or your colleague is talking and you're feeling as if they're just doing this yapping, or it's like, okay, yeah, let Adele talk, whether she's complaining about this work or not, it's okay.
Yeah.
She's going to finish and I'll go home.
Yeah.
Where you've stopped caring even about the things that meant something to you, where even if you're working in a space where you're passionate about, now it feels like a chore. You're not experiencing the wins, the drive, the pleasure, all that. Yeah. And then the worst point is when you start feeling that because of all this and you feel you're not performing very well, you're failing too much, you start losing your own sense of personal accomplishment.
Okay. What does that look like? So you don't see any worth in the things that you're doing?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
And then you start questioning that, for example, I've been practicing medicine for X number of years. What's the point? What do I have to show for it? Like, should I really have gone into medicine? And then your brain switches on into that negative kind of thinking. So you're not able to see that, look, I've actually been successful in this and this and this.
Yeah.
I've actually been able to handle this and this and this. Problem is, with burnout, it's also not about the individual. So we look at the systemic approach in terms of are our workplaces, are our social setups geared up to help, especially women, fail or thrive? Because what scorecard are we using to say that I am actually effective in my work? I am actually effective as a friend, as a lover, as a mother, as a sister, there's so much.
Yeah.
And then you feel like, okay, I'm overwhelmed because I'm sorting my kids out, but I'm expected to work hard, but I'm also in my spiritual group. And then, so I'm failing. So
and does it even matter? Like, I'm not...
Does it even matter? Am I worth anything? So that's why we typically tend to see burnout in way more women than in men, because there's that
the cultural and social issues.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So we have to get people from thinking that burnout is a failure of self.
Person, of
yes.
self.
Yeah, that I'm not incompetent. Yeah. So that's why, again, it tends to go hand in hand with a lot of imposter syndrome, because by the time you're wondering, am I good enough? Am I saying the right thing? Am I in the right space?
Am I meant to be here?
Am I meant to be here? Do I deserve to be here? I don't deserve to be here. More often than not, we're seeing that when someone is completely burnt out.
Oh, man. So for burnout and stress, when a patient comes to see you, what are some of the symptoms I'm walking in with that are indicators this could be stress,
this could be burnout?
Yeah,
as I said, because burnout is more or less an extension of chronic stress. You're coming in with fatigue, you're coming in with lack of sleep, changes in appetite, a lot of craving. You could come in with symptoms of depression. You have a very low mood. You're not enjoying things the way you used to, what we call anhedonia. You're not passionate about anything. Everything is a drag. Yeah. But most people just come in with, I'm just anxious all the time and I can't switch off.
I think, that fatigue for me, and like that your mind
is just racing. Yeah.
And I remember when I saw you for the first time and we needed to do some tests, I was just like, just do them today, because if I go back, will I come back? You know, sleep. That experience for me was the first time I realized the power of sleep. I think I thought it was an automatic thing we do, where I'd never had any issues sleeping.
Yeah.
But I say that not to mean I had a responsible evening routine. I didn't. I just slept easily, but I wasn't thinking how many hours.
Yes.
I wasn't limiting screen time. I probably fell asleep with my phone still on my hand, you know? So I get to this point where I'm not sleeping and I'm like, where? Is this what I see people tweet about? Insomnia? And I thought, this is hell.
Yeah.
And that experience made me understand how important sleep is.
Yes.
What is happening when we're sleeping that is so key to our health?
Ooh, so much. You see, when we look at sleep, we want to know first, how much sleep are you getting, the quantity, but also quality. Because you could be in bed for hours, but you're still waking up not refreshed, you're not energized and stuff. So that's why we say lack of sleep in and of itself is a physiological stress to the body. Now, during sleep, we go into different cycles.
Okay.
We have what we call the rapid eye and the non-rapid eye movement cycles of sleep. And each of those cycles, because they're sort of staggered out throughout the whole night, have very specific functions.
Okay.
For example, if we're thinking executive functions, higher functions, thinking, logic, putting together your memory, consolidation of memory, that happens during specific phases of sleep. So if we tamper with either the quantity or the quality of what you're getting, automatically we tamper with those. Oh, wow. That's why, for example, if you've traveled and you've changed time zones, and then you're jet lagged, so you're not sleeping very well, one of the things that will be initially affected will be your short-term memory. So, because we didn't get enough time to sort of consolidate.
Organize ourselves.
Yes, it's like a filing system. So then it's a constant, have you seen my phone? Oh no, I was supposed to call Adele half an hour ago and I totally forgot. You know, that kind of a thing. Okay. And that's why sometimes we find truly, even say for women who've just given birth, because of the sleep deprivation that we see during those newborn days, memory tends to be terrible. So that's how you hear of the funny stories. I left my car keys in the fridge.
And we call it mommy brain, or
yes,
we have terms for it, but
we have terms.
There is a reason.
There is a scientific reason. Yeah. So you'll find for many people, if we then disrupt your sleep, especially over a long period of time, your productivity will suffer. So because your logic is not as sharp, you know, your thinking is not as sharp. So you find maybe tasks that you could do in a shorter time are now taking a much longer time. And then what happens? That in itself stresses you. And then the more the stress, you're not sleeping anyway. And then you're in a vicious cycle. Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. During sleep, there's a lot of hormone balance going on. So
that was something that wasn't happening in my case, right? Yes. Things were all over the place.
All over the place.
Yeah.
And here we're talking all sorts of hormones, whether it's reproductive hormones. So then we're getting shifts in, you know, things like estrogen, progesterone, and all the other ones that would help balance out women's menstrual cycles, whether it's testosterone for men, and now we're getting them into excessive fatigue and, you know, a lot of depression, whether it's the hormones that control appetite, the ones that would tell you eat more or stop eating, we're dysregulating all that. And then hormones don't work, again, in silos. Yeah. So the minute we disrupt, however slight, in one set of hormones, for sure, there'll be some effects in others, okay? Immunity is a big one, is a huge one in terms of sleep, because during sleep, we sort of do a cleanup. Okay. To put it in a very basic manner, your immune system is supposed to do two things. One, check internally and make sure all the cells internally are working well. But also two, protect us from external forces. Okay. So at night, when we're sleeping, and again, if you're sleeping properly, quality, quantity, not just quantity, right? Your immune system can activate and figure out which cells need to be repaired, which cells are defunct, which cells are showing promise of abnormalities. And if we don't sort them out right now, downstream will lead us into malignancies, into cancers. Okay, that's why lack of sleep chronically is a risk factor for malignancies down the road.
Wow.
Yeah. But at the same time, this same immune system is supposed to be checking and seeing, is there any bacteria, is there any
That got
virus
in.
that's trying to fight us,
Yeah.
and how do we fight back? So if we have an immune system that's not able to do its job well, what will happen? You'll start getting recurrent infections. So this week, it's a flu you've picked up, and maybe it's taking a bit longer to clear, or it's been making you a bit more sicker. The other week is a urinary infection, and so on and so forth. So your immune function is really, really dependent on sleep.
This, like that third one, I had no idea.
We didn't talk about it.
Yeah,
then?
and I just feel like it's like
Yeah.
a building when all the workers have gone home and there's like people cleaning.
Sweep.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, because that's when we're doing all the detoxification. Yeah, because it's quiet. It's background.
Before they rise up, let's figure this out.
Let's figure things out. But you find even in terms of experiencing pleasure, sleep is critical.
Okay.
For you to be able to feel good. And this one, again, coming back to the hormone balance, there's something we call the happy hormones.
Okay.
And that's dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, and endorphins. Basically, their work does so well when we've allowed sleep to happen. But you'll find these same hormones, especially serotonin, is a precursor to one of the hormones that helps us sleep, called melatonin.
The one that didn't help me in my lack of sleep days. Yeah. It's putting a band-aid on something that was broken.
Yeah. So if we have a balance, say, of more of the stress hormones, then we'll lose some of these hormones and so on. You see, because we're sort of supposed to be titrating.
Yeah.
So then that's how over time you stop experiencing pleasure.
Oh, wow.
And such. But you see, why do we care about all this in the first place? Whether it's sleep we're looking at like this, whether we're looking at it in the context of stress.
Yeah.
We're looking at what we call chronic inflammation.
What is that?
So inflammation.
Whenever I hear chronic, I'm like,
chronic is bad. Unless it's chronic happiness.
Yes.
Or chronic money.
Yes.
So you find inflammation is part of how our immune system fights and reacts, again, to keep us protected.
Okay.
It's our defense system. But like anything else in the body, too much of anything is trouble.
Yeah.
So if we keep sort of waking up this inflammatory processes, which are supposed to fight and defend us, unfortunately, we end up damaging our cells. We end up damaging the way our bodies work. Now, the more and more we are studying disease, when we look at the major chronic diseases, all of them, have some form of chronic inflammation at their base. So whether we're thinking heart diseases, and the cardiovascular diseases, as we call them, so diabetes, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, some of the mechanisms there, chronic inflammation. Whether we're thinking cancers, which we're seeing so many of in younger people, in age groups we didn't expect to be seeing them, chronic inflammation. Whether we're thinking autoimmune conditions, which are the ones where your own body mistakenly fights itself because of an immune system that's not working very well, chronic inflammation. Whether we're thinking mental illness in terms of, yes, depression, anxiety, but even things like the dementias. You've heard of Alzheimer's, you know, where you're losing your memory. And again, we're seeing a lot of that, and in younger people. Chronic inflammation. So what are the drivers of this chronic inflammation? Lack of sleep, quality and quantity, high stress levels, because remember, the stress is what's causing our immune system to be defunct and then, right? Our diet, which, as we've seen, independently, if you're just not eating right, but also if you're not able to eat right in the context of existing stress, we're in trouble. What other thing? Hormonal imbalance, which again can happen independently because there are certain medical conditions that can cause that. But again, in the context of stress.
And no sleep.
So can you see how everything is one big web? And so that's why we're so concerned when we think somebody is suffering from chronic stress. Yes, from a mental perspective, we need you to have energy to be happy, to be able to seek pleasure in your life and function. But also, not just now, 10, 20, 50 years from now, what will your health state be? Because now we've stopped looking at lifespan only, where before we'd say, you know what, we just want you to live to 100.
Yeah.
But we're looking at health span.
Yeah.
Whether you live to, we pray, they're 100, or whether you live to 80, what was the quality of your life like? Could you see?
Yeah.
Could you hear? Were you aware where you are and who you are?
And that's something that's become so increasingly important for me, where I'm like, you need to start making choices so that the things that you enjoy doing, you're still able to do them.
Exactly.
When you're older. And so it's like, so that means I need mobility, I need movement, I need this, that, and the other, right?
Right.
So with sleep, it's so interesting, right? Because we live in a world, I just thought of like one of the earliest TikToks I found so funny was like me at 3 a.m. and it's on TikTok and you're laughing, and I was like, that's true. It seems like in the night, all the funny TikToks find their way to you, and then it's like 3 a.m. What does a good evening routine look like that sets you up for quality and quantity sleep? Right.
Definitely, first and foremost, it means an earlier bedtime. So you going to bed at 3 a.m. No.
Not working.
Not working. Because again of the cycles we have where naturally we want the hormone balance to do its job properly. So generally earlier bedtime.
Okay.
So you'll find for most adults, if I'm stereotyping here, if we're in bed by 10, great. Okay, already you're blinking at me.
No, because I'm in bed by 10
good.
Now. And I'm trying to move it to 9, but that's a bit
Which
difficult.
is still okay.
It's just been difficult.
Because you see, we're aiming for a quantity of at least between 7 to 9 hours, first and foremost. But for you to actually enter your bed and sleep, then we need a brain that has relaxed beforehand. Some people are lucky. You enter and the minute your head hits the pillow, you're asleep. Typically, younger people. Who have less stress. But you find, for most people, we need a sort of wind down routine so that even our brain, even physically, we start realizing, okay, now we need to start shutting down, which means screen time should ideally stop an hour before your intended bedtime. Because you see, when you're looking at a screen, your brain is still processing information, your eyes are still working, your ears are still working, you're still,
and
computing.
even after you put it down, like
you're still
like, did I see about, that email?
And then don't forget that now we're living in an age where we have so much information, but a lot of it is negative. And then we don't realize it, but you see me watching an hour of, what's going on in the war in Ukraine versus what shenanigans might be happening politically. Then I've seen, say, a picture of you on vacation, and then I'm a bit jealous because I'm like, oh, she's gone, this is her third vacation, and it's only March. All that is still keeping our brains buzzing. So that's why screen time, and not just the phone, it means even, your movies, your laptop, if you are working or such, needs to be off at least an hour before. Okay. It means we need to figure out, when did you eat your dinner, so that it's not too close to your bedtime and your own body is keeping you awake because you're trying to digest your hunk of steak.
You can't close shop. Still have work to do.
Still have work to do, so that again, you're not getting terrible quality sleep because of digestive disturbances. And that's why, generally speaking, we promote an earlier dinner time where possible.
So if I'm sleeping, if I'm in bed at 9, because I want to sleep by 10,
ideally eat between 6 and 7.
Okay.
Yes. So we've given you
I'm failing in that.
And you see, don't be too hard on yourself though, because it's also around our social constructs. Because by the time you leave work, for example, and maybe traffic, by the time you get home, have a shower, etc. But of course, where possible, make those concessions. Okay. We also want your body in a state of calm. So that's why most people prefer that if we had your exercise earlier in the day, it is a bit better than doing it at night. Because at night, it might be revving you up. We're pumping you with endorphins. The blood circulation is like, let's go.
I'm ready for the day. And it's like, it's nighttime.
Yeah. So preferably where possible, let's have the exercise earlier in the day. And then let's do more relaxing things. For example, if you're tending to your plants and you're watching, it's such a calming and grounding. If you want to read a book, or maybe that's when you're reading your scripture, something that's helping you, reflect inwards, or generally, a bit of brain activity, but not high octane stuff.
And lights?
Lights. We don't want bright lights. So if your house looks like an airport runway, please no. Change your bulbs so that again we're sort of getting your brain to know we're about to sleep. You'll find though during the day it's very important for us to be outside because natural light helps build up the hormone that I was talking about earlier, melatonin. It helps melatonin do its work. So during the day we have little melatonin, but as the day gets darker, we build up more melatonin so that at night when it's really dark and we're not out, then our brains can say, we have this much melatonin, let's fall asleep.
Bedtime. So it's like a switch.
It's like a switch, kind of. So that's why we promote, even for people who are working from home, make sure you go outside during the day so that at night, all the things you're doing, plus internally, everything is geared towards you sleeping and then sleeping well and sleeping through the night. Which also means hydration needs to be well timed.
I remember that was one we talked about.
Yes. Because again, now people panic, they've been to see Dr. Sally or, Dr. Zena or Dr. Wanjohi at Sante Reva and we're told drink water.
Yeah.
Great. What time are you drinking your water?
Because then you're going to wake up.
And we don't want your sleep disrupted by too many bathroom breaks. So ideally, you've hydrated well enough during the day so that everything that water does for us has been sorted out. But when you sleep, you sleep.
This is so wonderful. I really took for granted the benefits of sleep.
Yeah.
Because we just didn't have the knowledge, right? Yeah. Another thing that I'd like us to touch on is like supplements. When I came to see you, I was taking zinc because my sister told me she was taking zinc. And that she's like, I think I don't get hormones because of this thing. I was like, really? The time I started, it wasn't that I had hormones, but I was like, all right, sign me up. Turns out that's not what I needed.
Not
so like, should we be picking the supplements we need? Are they general supplements that women will need as we grow older? Or should we stick to go see Dr. Sally or whoever your doctor is and then figure out, this is what I need?
The latter. You put it so well. You put it so succinctly. Because you see, we know that individuals have different needs. And yes, we're both women, but you might find your health status and my health status are very different. Therefore, the things I need more of in my diet now might totally differ from what you need in your health now because of our genetic makeup, because of our occupations, because of the activities that we undertake. So we don't like to say there's a blanket one size fits all. Yeah. And it's important with supplements to know, why are you supplementing? Because again, when we're thinking a lot of these things that we're using to supplement, is it that nutrition is an issue? In which case, we'd really rather figure out how do we help you improve your diet so you're getting whatever vitamin or mineral directly
from the natural source.
From the natural source. And then truly, if there is a deficiency for whatever reason, then we're very clear, okay, let us supplement this. But it's also looking at what dosage are we using and then for what duration are we using the supplements. Because we don't want to overdo it. If you take certain supplements, for example, vitamin D, for example, vitamin C, magnesium, and you take them too long at too high a dose, you start getting physically ill, you get sick because of toxicities of these minerals.
Yeah.
So we don't want a situation where you're deficient, but neither do we want one where you have too much. And now you're going into toxicity.
And you can't guess that.
You can't
actually
guess.
Yeah.
You measure.
Yeah.
You have to see, this is where I'm starting from. So for me to reach this acceptable level, I need it at this amount in this formulation for this duration. Because again, there's different formulations. But don't forget, there's people with existing conditions. And we know we don't want you to use this particular supplement, even if it would have been great, because it could be worsening your illness. For example, the autoimmune conditions I was mentioning earlier, where your body fights itself, there are certain supplements which we ordinarily love to boost immunity. Now, we don't want to...
You can't boost immunity then. It's overacting.
Correct. You see? But now, if a friend told you, oh, take this because you need to boost immunity, and you happen to be a person with one of those conditions, you might be in trouble. And now you're getting sick, not because the illness itself is doing its thing, but because we've introduced something that's allowing the illness to come up. So that's why judicious use of supplements is so important. Yeah. And then, yes, I know when you were asking about, are there certain ones that women need? I know you were thinking around calcium.
Honestly, I when we had the zinc situation, I just stick to what you told me to take. Because I'm like, hey, I was moving mad. But yes. So we talk about calcium.
Magnesium, vitamin D. Yeah. And it is true because of especially the hormonal changes that women face that, men don't face as much. And because we have, say, periods of pregnancy, we also have periods of being in perimenopause and eventual menopause. It is true, especially when it comes to those particular minerals. We might need supplementation at a point. But not every woman, not every elderly woman must be on calcium. And the caveat to that is, today I might have you on a supplement, but once we've regulated what it is, I might not need you on that supplement again. But similarly, I might need to give you more than one. And maybe there's a formulation that will support that. I might need to sort this one out first so that it can then help this other one do its work. You see, so there's too many moving parts for people to just go and say, okay, give me that one because the bottle is pretty. No.
And a lot of these spaces are commercial now. So and like with supplements, you don't necessarily need a prescription, right?
Yeah, which... It's a bit tough.
So you walk in and you're just like, ooh, what is this one? And because, we want to sell, they'll be like, this is really good for women.
Yeah, how old are you?
Have this one. You're meant to be on this one, right? I think these things are best done with, a professional guiding you.
They are. Because again, we have to look at you as an individual. Again, I might put you on a supplement now, but because of the potential risks I'm anticipating, not even necessarily what you have right now. Again, for example, say you tell me you're now going to travel to a country that experiences very harsh winters, and you're going to be there the entire duration of winter. I'm already concerned about your vitamin D. So do I want to perhaps put you on a very low dose one, having already established that we're not in any danger of toxicity for the duration that you're away? Maybe, or maybe not. So it has to boil down to that individual. What is the need for you and what is the need for you now? Because the need now is not the same that it was when we first met.
And then for what duration, right? That's also a key one because some of us are on supplements forever.
Which is
so for women who are watching this and, I feel like, and I keep saying it, taking control over your health or your power back over your health is rebellion, and it's one of the life-changing things you can do for yourself as a woman. What do you think is the next or nearest smallest step a woman can start making today after they watch this that's going to inch them closer to stress-free, away from burnout, healthier sleep, you know what I mean? What's that smallest step they can take today?
Okay. as we speak,
Yeah.
if they can grab a glass of water and just be drinking it. Yeah, become the water guru now.
Okay, I need that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But if we're thinking around sleep, you know, you've always known sleep is my baby.
Yeah.
It's to start working on sleep, because also a lot of these things need a bit of time. It's not an immediate. So I wouldn't want anyone to feel discouraged when today they actually jump into their bed at 10, but sleep still
And
comes
they're
at
like-
1 a.m.
Yeah.
And they're like, what was Dr. Sally saying?
Yeah.
No, but it's to start enacting, can I say, proper sleep hygiene? Because that can start tonight, this time.
Yeah. Yeah.
So to make sure that you've eaten your healthy, balanced, nutritious meal a bit earlier.
Yeah.
Maybe you've had your shower or your bath thereafter. Today, instead of watching, say, the whole movie that you had planned to watch, maybe watch part of it so that you can allow yourself time off the screen before actually entering the bed.
Yeah.
You'll have started.
Yeah.
You see, with health, we always look at, where am I finding you? At what point am I finding you? How bad is it? How do we fix it quickly? But more importantly, how can we progress? And it's always a steady process. It's not an event.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you going to sleep tonight and sleeping for 14 hours will not make up for the 2 hours you've been sleeping for the past 3 years.
Yeah.
You see, but if today you actually start trying to sleep better, it means tomorrow will be better. Next week will be better. Before you know it, it's been 6 months where you have a properly established routine and you can sleep well.
And I like that with building habits,
Yeah.
like once you start, you get to a point where it's, I don't know, like I feel like the brain just gets it like, oh, okay, so that's how we're moving.
Yes.
Got you.
Yes.
And you start feeling the knock of like, Connie, we're not having dinner at 6 p.m.
Yes.
Connie, why the light's still on? You know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
now the body gets into this rhythm,
Yes.
you know.
Yeah.
And one last thing I have to thank you for is the way you explain things gives us so much power in knowing how our body is running, such that we can, even down the road, I was able to be like, if I feel something, I'm like, oh yeah, like last night I didn't actually do my sleep thing well, or like for 2 nights something was dysregulated. That's why I'm having this, okay, we need to get back to the routine, because you gave me that power through knowledge. And knowing how our bodies are these, like while we're sleeping, it's doing such incredible things, and the brain is talking to the gut and they're like, hey, are they infections or whatever? Made me understand that it's rooting for me. So I might as well, while I'm awake, root for it. Like, let me meet you halfway.
Yeah.
So I could listen to you talk about anything, Dr. Sani, all day.
Let me quote one of my colleagues, Dr. Zena, and she said, "You're the best health advocate for you." You see, I'm just a consultant in your health, and I'll jump in at the points that you need me to jump in. But who has this body? Who has this mind? All day, every day, for the rest of your life? It's you, right? So you find, because in healthcare, we've always approached it from a perspective of power, that I, the doctor, I know everything. You know nothing. That's why I'll, just tell you, oh, you're coughing. Okay, here is a prescription. Just go take this. And I won't bother to explain what has led to that cough, why I'm giving you this and not this, and so on and so forth. That's been the dynamic over years. So now is when we're trying to change it, because you see, the minute you understand why we're doing what we're doing,
it's not a chore. You're not inconveniencing me.
And then you'll stick to it. And then you'll come back to me and tell me, by the way, I have been doing 1, 2, 3 that you told me. However, these are the symptoms that I'm feeling. So then already, even in your health journey, we're at a better point where I'm not starting from scratch, because we'll know, okay, our basics are catered for. So most likely what is ailing you now could be A, B, C, D. You see?
I get it.
And then it becomes a lifestyle thing, because when we use the word lifestyle change, it sounds like this huge, miraculous, unreachable thing. But that's what lifestyle is. Lifestyle means you now know, I've not slept well. maybe that is why today I'm experiencing this and that and the other. And therefore, let me start remedying it by having an earlier night tonight and see if tomorrow I still feel the same
Because now
way.
you start eliminating it. And by the time I come to you, I'm like, I don't think it's sleep because this has happened.
Exactly.
I have been hydrating and now we're coming to a point of knowledge because I'm contributing.
Exactly,
right?
because it is your health.
Yeah.
I am a partner in your health.
Yeah.
And you see, again, that's a very important point because now you won't rush at the first symptom. You see, because if I've explained to you your cough was caused by X, Y, Z, but now we've reached a point where you've done your elimination, you'll come to me when there's a need.
100%.
100%, which means I won't have a patient who is over-medicated because from day one of the cough, you've been on medications all the way through to day 27, which is when we're interacting. And maybe you've passed through the hands of my colleagues in other institutions or whatever, you see. So in the global health system, then it means anybody who has been educated just has better control, not of the health only, but even in terms of healthcare spend. Which
these things are costly.
Because these things are costly. Because if I send you to do a lab test, that's a cost. If I prescribe a medication, that's a cost.
But imagine if I eliminate it and it's like, oh yes, it was sleep.
Yes.
Or, oh yes, it was water. Oh, I didn't eat this.
Yes, then I don't have you on medicines you didn't need to be, which from a health perspective would cause some effect in your body. But yes, also from a cost perspective.
Oh my God.
You see?
We appreciate your intentionality in how you approach health.
Thank you.
And then your passion, especially to make us as women just start understanding our bodies better to lead to better lifestyle decisions, right? And so Dr. Sally was like the best guest to start off for Mannerless Women. And in case you're like, what is this show? It's a brand new show here at Legally Clueless. And we are just trying to really give you all the tools you need to meet your best self, right? So if you check out the captions of this episode, you will be able to contact Dr. Sally, go to her clinic. She works with two very, very incredible, abled Kenyan women, all right? Doctors who are doing amazing work. So you'll be able to contact her if you have further questions or if you want to book a session. We also have to thank, since we're at the very beginning, the Polished Homes for helping us set up our wonderful set for Mannerless Women. The beautiful seats you're seeing, the decor you're seeing is from them. They have 2 branches, and in the captions, there's a link to their online store for you to check out all the other awesome stuff that they have. So make sure you subscribe because this is just the beginning so that you do not miss out on the next episode.